Welcome back to another episode of What Do They Know podcast. Today, the guys wrap up their division breakdowns with the AFC and NFC East. They will also rank their playoff teams for each conference and give their Super Bowl predictions to get ready for week 1 of football. But hey, what do they know?
What do they know? Well, we're about to find out what's going on, everybody. This is another episode of the What Do They Know podcast. I'm with Jeff Garcia. My name is Nick Hoskins. We have a full show for you today. We have a lot that we are going over as we get into week 1. Football is officially here. I feel like we can say that as we are recording a little late this week on Monday. The first game is 3 days away, and I am stoked about that. So we have a lot to jump into, but we're going to start a new segment this week, just kind of to kick off the show, something a little fun, a little different, with just a random thought of the week. Each of us, what came to you as you were driving to work, or what made you kind of tilt your head and say, wonder what's going on with that.
Right.
So Jeff, I'll let you go. What's your random thought of the week?
Well, this actually occurred to me on my drive home from work on Thursday. So, I was just don't even know why I thought of it, but I was thinking about my middle name, Brian, and I don't think anybody ever has called me Brian in an endearing way, not even my mother. Shout out, mother.
So it's only when you do something wrong.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey Bryan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where
Nicholas Edwin. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree completely.
It's one of those things where they just
What's the point? What's the point of a middle name?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
it's just for anger and
where did it come
violence,
from?
basically.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
So I was like, yeah, that was my random thought of the week.
All right.
What about you?
My random thought, so I'm obviously this is a sports podcast, so I'll talk a little baseball as well. I'm a huge Yankee fan. They called up a couple guys from the minors this week. But the minors are always referred to, like your players in the minors, they're referred to as your farm system. Now, why is it called a farm system? Like that occurred, like where did that come from? I think it's because minor league ballparks are typically in the middle of nowhere.
Oh,
in like the farm
farms.
fields,
Yeah.
like that's my thought, but that was something I was like, why do they call it a farm system?
Yeah, I always imagine it was like they produce them like in like vegetables or something.
Wow.
They just grow them. They're crop.
Minor league players do seem to grow on trees.
Yeah.
So,
Basically.
Yeah. All right. So those are our random thoughts of the week.
Yeah.
We're going to do that each week. Something quirky, something fun, something random to kick off the show. We will continue answering questions. We really appreciate you guys continuing to set in some topics and some discussions. Our boy Joe sent in another one, kind of a follow-up from his question last week about Jonathan Taylor. So
Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. We appreciate your participation, brother. We will kick off with his question. So he said, I'll piggyback off last week's question. Now that JT, which is Jonathan Taylor, is stuck without a suitor for a trade, do you guys think that he holds out, or do you think they find a middle ground and pay him? So again, Jonathan Taylor demanded a trade, was told that he wasn't going to get traded. Then they gave him permission to seek a trade, but with a deadline.
Mm-hmm.
The deadline came and went, which, not to toot my own horn, that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. I said that, they weren't going to end up doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But now the deadlines came and went, and he's on the PUP list, which PUP, physically unable to perform list, which means he's out a minimum of the first 4 weeks.
Right.
So that to me is like when it starts, like when the timeline starts again, like after those 4 weeks, what's going to happen? For me personally, I think that he's going to end up caving one way or the other, whether it's he just comes back without a new deal or they pay him, an extra $1 or an extra $2 million or whatever incentives. Yeah. Like structure the contract a certain way, like Josh Jacobs, and come back. That's what I think is going to happen. I feel like, and this could obviously very easily change, but typically in the NFL, there aren't a ton of big in-season trades like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Typically, the big trades that happen in the off-season, the big trades that happen in the NFL are in the off-season rather than in the middle. Correct. Draft. Yep. Right around April, free agency, stuff like that. So I personally don't think he's going anywhere. I think that he'll end up, coming back one way or the other, but I'll let you share your thoughts.
Well, he kind of has to because under the new CBA, he has to play at least 6 games or at least be available for 6 games for him to accrue that season as completed. Otherwise, he's not going to become a free agent, and they're going to just do the whole routine again next year. And the predicament that Jonathan Taylor is going to be in is at year's end, the Colts can just slap the franchise tag on him.
Yep.
So that's going to create a whole other situation with that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's going to have to come out eventually. The Colts are going to designate him probably with 2 weeks to ramp him up. So he's got to come in at least 8 weeks before the season ends to accrue those 6 games played. But from there, after the offseason, I don't know what's going to happen, but he's definitely not going to be happy until he gets traded or paid. But I'm assuming it's going to be traded.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that's just going to kind of die down with time. And it's a story now, but I don't know if it will be in 4 or 5 weeks, but we'll see. So, Joe, again, thank you, brother, for the question. We appreciate it. Feel free, anybody. Obviously, week 1 is kicking off, so there'll be way more to talk about, depending on what happens each week, injuries, storylines, teams, how they're playing, things of that nature. So please feel free to send us in some questions, and we'll make sure to kick off all of our shows with, discussing whatever you guys want. So
right.
We appreciate that. So now we will jump into the second to last episode of Hard Knocks. There's one, last one tomorrow night, but we'll do a quick review of last week's episode. I thought it was really entertaining because, like I kind of previously spoke about, Aaron Rodgers was suiting up for the first time. There was some trash talk with him and one of the Giants' middle linebackers. I don't even really recall his name.
Who are you? I don't know you.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't even know who you are. Shout out Aaron Rodgers. But I really enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed, it kind of got me hyped all over again for the season. It was, we talked about the week before how they hadn't really done all the behind the scenes of the players. And this week I felt like they actually did that. Mm-hmm. They went behind the scenes of 2 of their young wide receivers who, if you go off of training camp, they look to be like they could produce. They could, help out a lot this year. But
right.
So it was an entertaining episode, and we have one more to go until the season kicks off.
Yeah. To be honest with you, Aaron's hilarious.
Yeah.
The more I see him, the more I like him.
He's got like that dry humor.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's like right up my alley.
Yep.
And another thing with it is Nathaniel Hackett is such a perfect match with him.
I agree. He's so funny to me. He's hilarious. I'm glad you brought that up.
Like he's a bro.
Yeah.
Hackett's a bro, but I guess you can kind of see where it went wrong in Denver though, in head coaching. But as an offensive coordinator, he's a pro, especially with Aaron Rodgers. So I it's always funny to see that connection with Rodgers and Hackett.
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to jump into our last set of divisional breakdowns. I know we have a lot of people excited about these sets of teams.
You've been waiting for this,
including myself.
Yep, you've been waiting for this.
So we're going to break down the NFC and the AFC East, 2 of the most interesting divisions in football, in my opinion. We'll start with the NFC East, again, in no particular order. We'll start with the Commanders.
The Commanders of Washington.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of get them out of the way. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm sorry if anybody's a Commanders fan on listening. I really don't have a whole lot to talk about with them. Obviously, the big thing for them this year was getting rid of their trash owner, Dan Snyder.
Yep.
I know a lot of fans are excited for the season simply because of that.
Yeah, it's a new era.
It is a new era. Obviously, Ron Rivera is in my opinion, a great coach.
Yeah.
So they'll always be competitive. I think they were. They finished in last place in the division, but they had 7 or 8 wins, if I recall.
7, yep.
So they weren't terrible, right? They weren't someone you were just going to walk all over.
Right.
They have Sam Howell, their new quarterback. They gave him the nod this year. Also, side note, Taylor Heineke, all the dude did was win as a backup. He never got the start. Nope. Everybody kept getting injured. They threw him in there. He performed. Everybody loved playing with him. And he still didn't get a shot this year. I don't get that. I'm a huge Taylor Heineke fan, but they decided to go with Sam Howell, so It is what it is at this point. They signed Jacoby Brissett as a backup, so we'll
who was there in Cleveland last year?
Correct. Who was there in Cleveland? Who played the first 12 games while filling in for Deshaun Watson. Right. So he's a very, very capable backup, and so I'll be curious to see that dynamic and how long of a leash Sam Howell has. And if Jacoby Brissett makes an appearance this year, but not a ton of weapons in Washington. Obviously, Terry McLaurin is a really talented receiver. They have Chase Young on defense. He's a cornerstone of that franchise, really. But besides that, there's really not a whole lot going on in Washington. I don't really have high expectations for them this year.
Right, yeah. I mean, they brought in a new offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, from Kansas City. So
that's true.
We'll see how that translates. We'll see if they bring some of that Kansas City offense over to Washington. So that'll definitely benefit Sam Howell. I'm assuming they didn't give Heineke that chance just to, I guess, give Howell that sense of security rather than always looking over his shoulder that Heineke's always there. But yeah, I'm with you on that, Bo. I enjoyed seeing Heineke play.
Yeah,
and the dude just
all he did was, I mean, he won.
He just motored out there, and like he was balling. But they decided to go with Sam Howell, and we'll see where that goes. But because honestly, I haven't seen too much of him at all, so I don't know what he's shown in camp or in other areas too.
I don't either, to be honest with you. I haven't really.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I haven't really paid attention to the Commanders this year. So again, I'm sorry if there's any Commanders fans listening to this, but
let us know if he's the guy though. But Tarek McLaurin, he's gonna be their number one. They got Dotson coming in, I think their second year receiver. Curtis Samuel, but Curtis Samuel, I feel like always has injury issues.
He does.
Every once in a while. And then Brian Robinson's and Jr. He shot his leg last year and missed a few games. So
he didn't shoot his own leg.
Oh,
he got shot in the leg.
Oh, he got shot in the leg.
Let's give the guy some credit, okay?
My bad. My bad, Brian.
He didn't shoot him. He's not Plexico Burris, okay? He didn't shoot himself. I think he got robbed and he got shot in the leg. So let's give the guy some credit. Okay?
I think that's the connection that always happens when I hear someone getting shot in the leg is Plexico Burris just shooting himself. My bad, Brian.
Yeah. All right, let's just clear that up. He's not just walking around shooting himself in the leg.
Whoops, blooper reel right there. But he's sharing the backfield with Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson's been there.
Antonio Gibson
he's been there a while.
Yeah.
So, I know that's not the most, I guess, hopeful backfield you can have, but it's definitely serviceable. Yeah. Brian Robinson's second-year player as well. So,
I think the thing that hurts them the most is just the other three teams in the division. They're all very, very talented teams. All won over 10 games last year, all over 11 actually, I think. And so, I mean, the Commanders, they had to do something in the offseason, I feel like, to compete, and they really didn't do that, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think they're going to wait for a little while just to see if someone falls off, and then they'll rebuild effectively in that sort of way. But yeah, Chase Young, I think he's dealing with a stinger right now. So he hasn't even been cleared for contact yet. So
the dreaded stinger.
So he got that in the preseason opener, and that's 3 weeks ago. So that must be that's like turf toe.
Yeah,
just one of those things that just
nags.
Yep. You don't know what it is, but hey, it's there. So I mean, their defense has always been up there, and it's always been underrated. Like no one ever talks about the Commanders' defense, but it's always consistent, especially with Ron Rivera there. I have all the faith in Ron Rivera putting up a decent to very good defense over there. So, but it's just offensively, there's questions there.
Yeah, so big time. I agree. We'll go to the Giants next. I have very high expectations for the Giants.
Ooh.
I think they did a lot in the offseason. First and foremost, trading for Darren Waller was massive. I think that he is going to ball out this year. I think that him and Daniel Jones are going to have a huge connection. He's essentially the number one wide receiver target, even though he's a tight end.
Yeah,
he's going to be the equivalent, maybe not to that level, but he's going to be like the Travis Kelce of the Giants.
Yeah, their receivers are lacking, to be honest. But yeah, Darren Waller definitely makes up for that.
Yep, he does. And obviously, the big storyline with the Giants is always going to be Saquon. He is such a good talent. Can he stay healthy for a full year? Obviously, he held out in the preseason for a few weeks trying to get a new contract, which always makes me nervous because if you didn't get a full camp, your body's not in full football shape yet.
Right.
Maybe even if he's just a week or two away, that could easily be a groin, a hamstring, a calf, something minor because his body's just not where it needs to be yet. So that always makes me nervous from an injury perspective. But if he's healthy, he's electric. So there's that. Again, I think Daniel Jones is going to have a much bigger year. Simply because of Darren Waller. They signed a couple other guys as well. Cole Beasley, Paris Campbell on the outside. Obviously, they still have Darius Slayton.
Yep.
And their defense was very, very good last year. under the new defensive coordinator. So I think they're going to be really good this year. I'm excited about the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot to be excited about for the G-men. They signed Daniel Jones to an extension.
Yep.
And also
he
Dexter
got paid.
Lawrence. Yep.
He got paid.
Daniel Jones and Dexter Lawrence both got paid. They got their extension, so that's big signings for them. They're definitely having that foundation that every team needs to get them through the tough times and any sort of like influx of youth that they want to have. But yeah, they have a really good defensive line. I think they had top 5 pick last year in Thibodeau. Yep. So I can't remember where he went, but I
want to say it was number 4.
Yeah.
Because they were right behind. They were right behind the Jets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I mean they're stacked with talent on that defensive side. It's just going to be about stopping the run for them on that defensive end. Stats have them ranked them at 31st against the run last year. So they it's just something that they're going to have to work on. I know they signed somebody from the Colts, Bobby Okereke. He had 130 tackles for Indianapolis the past 2 seasons. So
golly.
That's each of the past 2 seasons.
That's a ball hawk right there.
Yep. So having somebody there to stop the run game is definitely going to help that defense. So I think they improved where they needed to improve. I definitely see a step forward for that team. So
I agree. We'll go to Dallas. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys?
Dallas. So the Cowboys, I mean, they didn't do much in free agency. I think all they did was trade for Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. I mean, they're big name players, but at the same time, they're aging name players. Cooks is the number 2. It's probably a role that's better suited for him than the number 1 that he was thrusted in, like Houston
for sure,
and wherever else. Well, with New Orleans, he was number 1, but he was kind of misplaced number 1. He's a deep threat. But as he gets older, how much of that speed is still there? So that question looms. But definitely playing behind CeeDee Lamb is definitely going to help him there and hopefully maximize his potential in that offense. I know they're moving on from Kellen Moore.
Yeah, that's
from the offensive coordinator. So I don't know what to expect really from that offense. I know Tony Pollard is now the number 1 running back, and I think deservedly so. I think he's been outplaying Zeke for a while. So
Zeke just looked slow last year.
Oh yeah,
he just like kind of what we talked about last week with Najee Harris. Just no burst.
No.
So yeah, I think it was long overdue for Tony Pollard to take over.
Oh, absolutely. So and obviously with their offensive line is always stout, if healthy. I think I read somewhere that their left tackle Tyron Smith has only played 17 games out of 51 in Mike McCarthy's tenure there. So that's definitely something to look forward to is their health. If they're all healthy, which they are right now, then that will definitely help out that run game and that pass protection. As for their defense, they got Michael Parsons still there. That he's definitely going to be.
He's a beast.
He's going to be a big force there, and we'll see how many sacks he ends up getting by the end of the year. But yeah, they have pieces there. It's just I'm not sure if they took that step forward, and I don't know if Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks are the answers to what they needed.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like when you look at the division as a whole, the Giants took a step forward, and the Cowboys, maybe they didn't necessarily take a step back, but they kind of did by default.
Right.
They didn't do anything, and I feel like, in my opinion, I think the Giants leapfrogged them. The biggest storyline for me, like you already talked about, is Mike McCarthy taking over the play calling. Dak had 15 interceptions in 13 games last year. Obviously he was injured for a couple weeks. He just didn't look like the old Dak. He didn't look like himself. McCarthy has obviously put himself right in the crosshairs by taking over play calling duties.
Oh yeah.
If Dak has another year like that, you can almost guarantee McCarthy is gone.
Oh yeah.
I'm that to me is the biggest storyline for the Cowboys. Obviously their defense is going to be great. They are a talented team, but again, I feel like they didn't do enough to keep up with their division, with their own division.
Right. They're treading water right now. Yeah. And maybe because let's not get it twisted. They still won 12 games last year.
They did.
Or something?
Yeah.
So it's not bad to tread water at that level, but at the same time, you got the Eagles and the Giants both in that division, and that's going to be a tough division to overleap both those teams.
Yep. I agree. Rounding out the division, we have the defending NFC champions, the Eagles. Joe Rogers, I know you're listening to this one. Joe's a huge Eagles fan.
Joe?
Huge Eagles fan.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, so I got nothing but good things to say about the Eagles, to be honest with you. So way to go, Joe.
Yeah. I mean,
they signed Jalen Hurts.
They signed Jalen Hurts. They traded for DeAndre Swift, and they signed Rashad Penny. Mm-hmm. I think that's a sneaky good tandem.
Oh yeah.
I loved Rashad Penny with his time in Seattle. Miles, they let Miles Sanders walk. I think that Philly's kind of the mindset of let's not pay running backs.
Right.
And so they let him walk. They didn't give him a big contract, and instead they traded for Swift, who was obviously cheaper, and signed Penny to a lesser deal. So they have a good duo, and so I think that that's a good running back tandem behind Hurts, who can also obviously run the ball himself.
Right.
They did lose some guys on defense. Javon Hargrave, Chauncey Gardner-Edwards. They did lose a couple key pieces, but I think they're still going to have a really good, stout defense. Mm-hmm. And I also think they have the best receiving duo in the league, in my opinion, with
AJ Brown and Devontae Smith.
AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Thank you. Those guys are awesome. I mean, they both showed. Devontae Smith, nobody talks about this. He had over 1,000 yards last year.
Very quietly
had over 1,000 yards.
Yep.
And obviously AJ Brown just tore it up.
Yeah. AJ Brown got all the spotlight.
The Eagles are fine, right? I don't think anybody really questions where they're going to be at the end of the year. As far as division standings, I have high expectations for them.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And they had 2 first-round picks this past year, and they invested both of them on defense too. They got Jalen Carter at number 9, so it's a top 10 pick, and then they got Nolan Smith, both from Georgia, I believe. So
which Georgia had an amazing defense.
Oh yeah, so. I mean they won the national championship last year for a reason. So yeah, I mean they lost some pieces, but they definitely gained some good pieces back during the draft. So my only questions will be their linebacking core. They got LaShawn Reddick, which they signed from the Cardinals 2 years ago, 2 off seasons ago. But they got Zach Cunningham and Nakobe Dean, which is a second-year player, and Zach Cunningham's been waived twice, I believe. Once by Houston, and then the other one by somebody else. Can't remember who. But they're very questionable on those linebacker positions. But for the most part, they got the cornerback and the defensive line to make up for that, I believe. So the only interesting part that I'm going to look for is they lost both their coordinators. They lost Gannon and Steichen. So we'll see how.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We'll see how they adjust without those guys there.
That's a good point.
But yep,
people don't talk about that. When you're a good team, odds are you're going to lose a coordinator,
right?
And that's going to impact your following season for sure. But
right.
I don't think the Eagles are in any danger of not making the playoffs, not winning the division. I think they're going to be. Just fine.
They definitely have the talent to.
Yep.
Go through it.
All right, so that's the NFC East, and we'll transition to the AFC East. We'll start with the Patriots. What are you looking at with the Pats?
So with the Patriots, let's see here. Switch to my notes. I know that they got Mike Jones on there, and they're all in with Mac Jones.
Yeah, they are.
So they got no room for error with Mac Jones.
All of their other quarterbacks.
Yep.
I don't know if they've signed a number 2 guy yet, but they literally, as of cut down day, had no other quarterback on their roster. So that tells you all you need to know about what they think about Mac Jones.
Yep.
Which, whatever.
I mean, Bill Belichick has always been one to do quirky things like that. And, I mean, that's really out there. So because I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
So, obviously they're going to have to sign somebody as a backup or something to just in case of injury. It's not questioning Mac Jones's talent level. It's just you need somebody there just in case something happens. But yeah, I guess their biggest offseason addition was Bill O'Brien. They finally got an offensive coordinator who they don't
have a defensive guy trying to call offensive plays this year.
Was it Patricia?
Yes. Yep, with the pencil in his ear.
Yep.
Oh, that guy. He always looks so smart and so studious with the pencil in his ear, and then last year it just wasn't the right call.
Yep. Like, oh wait, we're playing offense, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, it's going to be a step up having an actual offensive person there, but at the same time, I don't see too many weapons there. They got Ramondre Stevenson there at running back. They signed Zeke, but like you said, last year he looked slow. I don't know how much he has left in the tank. So that's a combo, but I'm not. That's a very questionable combo. I just don't trust New England Patriot running backs for as long as I can remember. To be honest,
so I'll give you a little sneak peek.
Yep.
For my stay away, I literally wrote New England running backs for the fantasy part of the AFC East. I wrote stay away from the New England running backs.
Yeah,
because I agree 1,000%. I will never, as long as Bill Belichick is the coach.
Yep.
I will never draft a New England running back.
Yep. Or pick one up.
Correct.
Because whenever.
Correct. One will have a great game, and then he'll get cut the next week.
Yep.
Like there's just no rhyme or reason for what they do there with running backs. But sorry, I got off topic.
No, that's fine because it's true. It's just the way it is. But signed Juju. Though surprisingly they let go Jacoby Myers, which was surprising to me.
Yeah.
But they got Juju and Devontae Parker as their wide receivers now, which Devontae Parker was over there in Miami, but he had his flashes, but at the same time, he never was really consistent, in my opinion. He was never there putting up constant numbers, but we'll see if Belichick can get something out of him more consistently. And Juju, obviously, he's just never been a number one. Ever since he thrusted into that role when Antonio Brown left Pittsburgh, he just wasn't. He put up some numbers, but it wasn't number one receiver. Numbers.
And you got to think about who was throwing in the ball too, right? I think he went from Big Ben to Patrick Mahomes, and now he's going to Mac Jones. Which whatever, Mac Jones is a serviceable quarterback, but he's not either of those two.
Right.
So I'll be curious to see how he does with a less than phenomenal quarterback throwing it to him like he has had in the past.
Right. So we'll see how Juju puts up numbers, but I have questions there. Their biggest probably offensive producers are probably going to be their tight ends, to be honest. It's going to be Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. And I feel like, obviously, going back to the Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski days, and I'm not comparing the two, but it's just validating the usage of tight ends there in that New England system.
Yeah, they've always had two tight ends. Last year it just didn't work out. They had Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith.
Yep,
and he just wasn't the guy. He did not perform. He had that one amazing year in Tennessee that got him that contract with New England, and he just kind of fell off the planet.
Yeah,
I don't even know where he went, to be honest with you.
I don't either.
Yeah,
So, but we'll see how that connection works. But to be honest, I think that's where the production is going to be, especially in the passing game. And then defensively, you can always, I guess, rely on Bill Belichick to put up a good product out there defensively, even if they have I guess concerns at certain positions, but they have Matthew Judon, who's had 28 sacks over the past few years. So they have producers there. It's just about having key producers at every position, which I'm not sold that they do, but at the same time, Bill Belichick will find a way for it to work consistently, at least.
Yeah, I told you before the show, I feel like they're always going to be there. They're never going to just have that 3 or 4 win season as long as Bill Belichick is there, in my opinion. They're always going to be, somewhat competitive, fight till the end. If you remember last season, they didn't get eliminated until I think it was the last week of the season against the Bills when it was the DeMar Hamlin game. They had that kickoff return for the touchdown to start the game. They were literally in contention for the last wild card spot until the last week of the season. So they were competitive last year. Everybody seems to think that, to your point about Bill O'Brien, that's going to make a huge impact on Mac Jones. Obviously, they have some familiarity with each other, both previously being at Alabama. So I think that'll help a little bit. But I just, at the end of the day, you already talked about it. I don't think they have the weapons.
Right.
Zeke, he just looks slow. We already talked about that. Devontae Parker, all the things you already mentioned. I'm not going to, beat a dead horse. I just, at the end of the day, I don't think that they've set Mac Jones up well enough to because you think about the offenses in the AFC East, right? The Bills, phenomenal offense. The Dolphins, they have speed all over the place. The Jets, on paper, look like they should have a great offense this year. I just don't think they have the offense to put up the points to compete with their division. I think that's what it comes down to.
Right. Yep.
So next we'll go to the Dolphins. I know, shout out to my boss, Gary. He's a huge Dolphins fan, and he's anxiously awaiting this episode to hear our thoughts.
Oh, so, Dolphins fan, huh?
So shout out, Gary.
Shout out, Gary.
Well, I think the Dolphins, everybody says that it hangs on Tua's health, right? Is he going to stay healthy? If he does, then they're going to be very competitive. I told you before the show, I don't necessarily think that's the case. Obviously, he's a great quarterback, and they're better with him. Having said that, one of the, in my opinion, under the radar things they did in the offseason was they signed Mike White, who was the Jets' backup last year, as their backup this year. And until that Bills game, when they essentially snapped Mike White in half and broke several ribs,
right.
He was lighting it up. He came in place of Zach Wilson. Obviously, he had played the year before, too. Put up over 400 yards against the Bengals on Halloween, upset the Bengals. He's proven that he can throw the ball and he can put up some points. So I say all that to say, not that he's going to be the savior, but I will say that I think that they are going to be just fine if something happens to Tua again this year. I think they have just stupid speed all over the field. Obviously, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert's fast as crap, too. Yep. They're going to, they should be electric with or without Tua. I think they're going to be a really, really good team. The one thing that I don't necessarily agree with is how good everybody believes their defense is going to be. They had an okay defense last year, in my opinion. I didn't think it was otherworldly. But obviously, Jalen Ramsey's on IR to start the season
for a very long time.
I've heard November or December possibly. Yep. So
if at all,
that hurts big time, right? Yep. Obviously, they traded for Bradley Chubb midway through the season last year, so they'll have him for a full season this year. So they'll be good. But I've heard time and time again how great their defense is and how great it's going to be, and I just don't know if I see that.
Right.
Personally.
Yeah, I mean, they have a number one cornerback in Xavier Howard.
Yep.
So that slot's filled. They have Chubb. They have Christian Wilkins in the defensive line. Problem I have is their number two cornerback. I think they're drafting a second-year undrafted cornerback right now, opposite of Howard. And, I mean, obviously you had Ramsey in there, and that would have made a world of difference, to be honest. Going from an undrafted second-year player to Ramsey is that's a big step up. And maybe I can see it from there, especially with Vic Fangio there leading that unit. But at the same time, as they are right now, I'm with you. I just don't see them being elite. They can be consistently good,
right?
But I think another thing that hurts them is they didn't have a first round pick this past year. They had to forfeit it because they got caught with tampering issues with Brady. So I mean, obviously on offense they got Tua and, like you said, Hill and Waddle, and that'll be a dynamic trio as long as Tua's healthy. And the way you speak of Mike White reminds me of how you speak of Heineke. just goes out there and like both. Just balls and
I just love
produces.
Them both.
Yep. So that's
I would have been okay. Honestly, I would have been okay if Mike White was our starter, the Jets starter this year. I would have been totally
just give him the reins.
Totally content with that. Give him a full season to show what he can do. That's how highly I think of him personally.
Hot take.
Mike White's a starter in this league. You heard it here first.
Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, right now they got Tua. We'll see if he even knows how to spell his last name, to be honest with you, because he had like 3 concussions and like in the span of like 2 weeks or something. Yeah, that was insane. So they exercise his 5th-year option, so they'll give him time. The thing is, does he have overall the health and the arm? So I feel like a lot of times it's Hill and Waddle that are making Tua look a lot better than what he is.
Correct. I agree.
But
yeah, because you think, he throws a 10-yard slant and they break it.
Oh, yeah.
House. Well, that's not Tua.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, he put it on the numbers, whatever.
Right.
But, that's just their speed and their talent making that play. So I agree 100% with that.
So we'll see if they start believing that, but at the same time, he's got to stay healthy for his own sake.
Yep.
And like you said, it doesn't have to be for Miami's sake because they got Mike White back there, but for Tua's own sake, I think he's just got to stay healthy.
Yep, I agree.
Yep.
All right, so we'll go to the Bills. I know, obviously, we are in Rochester. We have a lot of Buffalo fans in the area. We have some Buffalo fans that listen to this. I think you have quite a few Buffalo fans at your work listening to this. So, obviously, the Bills are the Bills. They're division champs back-to-back years. I have no reason to believe this. Nothing to substantiate it. It's just a hunch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're going to take a step back this year, and I don't know what that means. I still have them winning the division.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm not saying they're going to tank.
Right.
I feel like, and again, no stats, no analytics to justify this. I just feel like their window is closing.
That gut feeling.
It's a gut feeling,
and I agree with you.
100%. I
Yep.
feel like I feel like things that start to happen with teams that are good that don't win it after a while, like chemistry issues start to develop, and just things start to happen.
It's the whole Stephon Diggs saga right now.
That was my transition to that.
Yep.
I know Bills fans want to say that there's nothing there.
Mhm.
I don't buy it, even if it's something so subtle.
Mhm.
I feel like enough people have reported on it. Say what you want about Stephen A. Smith. He's loud. He's boisterous. He's annoying. Whatever. That's
Yeah.
fine, right?
Right.
He's a credible enough reporter to where if he's reporting the issues that he is saying about Diggs,
Mhm.
there's something there.
Right.
I wholeheartedly believe that. Will that translate to issues on the field, stats on the field, whatever? That remains to be seen. But I feel like that's just the first, slash in their armor, so to speak,
Mhm.
to where maybe they're not going to be the dynamic offense or that they have been in the past.
Yeah, it can be like the biggest chink in their armor too. Like if you lose the belief in the locker room, you're done.
Yeah.
Like same thing happens with coaches. If you lose that locker room, you're on lent time or
Yep.
whatever.
Borrowed time.
Borrowed time.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
And they also lost their defensive coordinator who stepped away for the season, Leslie Frazier.
Yep.
So I think, and they're starting middle linebacker in Tremaine Edmonds. So I think that those two pieces could translate to some issues on defense. I think they're still going to have a great defense.
Yeah.
But that might be something where it takes a week or two, or maybe even 3 or 4 to kind of figure out what they're doing.
Mhm.
The one thing they do have going for them on defense is they're getting both of their starting safeties back, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde.
Biggest
That's the best safety duo in the league.
Yep.
So that is going to go a long way for that defense.
Mhm.
Obviously, the big question mark is Von Miller. When he's on the PUP list for the first 4 weeks, so he's out at least 4 weeks. They're being super cautious with him.
Right.
And James Cook is taking over at running back. They let Devin Singletary go to the Texans. Not that they've ever really even utilized a running back.
Right.
I was always of the opinion that Devin Singletary could start on most teams and be a phenomenal starting running back.
Very effective.
He's one of those guys that just refuses to go down.
Right.
So I thought really highly of him. I just don't think they ever really utilized him correctly.
Yeah.
So we'll see if James Cook, what that looks like, if they go to him more, if it's more of the same.
Right.
Obviously, Josh Allen is pretty much the running back one there,
Yeah.
right or wrong. But again, no stats or analytics to justify this. I just feel like they're not going to be as dominant. I guess that's the best way to say it. They're still going to be good. They're just not going to be as dominant as they have been the last 2 years,
Right.
in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, last year they got decimated by injuries on that defensive end and that defensive side of the ball. Jordan Poyer and Mike Hyde are definitely going to be the world of difference there for that defense, though, and it'll transform their defense from, I think they were borderline elite last year, to fortified elite.
Yeah.
So that'll definitely be the biggest offseason, I guess, additions, even though they're not technically additions, but that'll definitely transcend what they're doing. So even if they take a step back offensively, I still think as long as they remain healthy defensively, it's a zero-sum game at that point. But like you said, I also have that feeling of this is it. This is their last dance type of thing. Josh Allen's cap hit goes up to like 51 mil next year, so that's going to produce problems financially, money wise. Who's going to be a cap cut type of thing next year? So I always believe as soon as you sign a quarterback, you're
on borrowed time.
Yep. You're
100%.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a matter of time before you just got to tear it all down and rebuild.
And how long is Stephon Diggs going to be here? Right. Not to continue on that topic, but you think about his time in Minnesota, it was a very similar storyline.
Right.
He started out great. He put up monster numbers. Everybody loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden these things started to come out. He was unhappy. He played the whole season, wanted to trade, didn't want to trade, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden that following offseason he got traded.
Right.
So
yeah,
it could be a Stephon Diggs problem. I don't know if he's just, got an attitude, wide receivers or divas. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
but I feel like it's a very similar storyline to what happened with him in Minnesota.
Absolutely. So
yeah, we'll see.
Like you said, he got traded, and so to me, this is probably Diggs' last year here, especially if they don't win it. So to me, this anyway I slice it, it's just their last hoorah. I just don't see them bringing the entire band back together next year and having the same sort of success. And with the Jets ascending and Dolphins, maybe they'll find something and some consistency with Tua, and then who, like you said, New England's always there, and they'll always be there, especially with Belichick there. So with Buffalo, I think this is it. But I think they got limited weapons besides Diggs. They got Gabe Davis, and then after that, it's a fall off in terms of wide receiver talent there. They drafted a first round tight end, but he's still listed behind Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much they're
Dalton Kincaid, I think out of Utah.
Utah, I believe. Yep. Like 25 overall. So I mean, we'll see how much they use the tight end, because Dawson Knox, he's more like a red zone target than say a middle of the field, so drive you down the field type of player like a Travis Kelce or something. So how that works, how that functions, we'll see. And obviously James Cook, the running back situation, I don't know how they'll handle that. You'd hope they'd kind of take the responsibility away from Josh Allen. Even though he's your best player, you still want to keep him healthy, especially after all the beatings he's been taking over the past years. Being your running back one, there's just got to be something that you have to watch out for his sake, and for your own sake at the Bills' expense. And defensively, obviously they have Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. The only thing they have now is corner back at second position. They have Tre'Davious White there at the number one, but then they got Dane Jackson, who's a former 7th round pick. So obviously you don't want to put too much stock in what round they got taken and whatnot, but at the same time, there's a reason they got picked the 7th round in 2020, so 3 years ago. So whether he's taken huge steps in 3 years, that's from to be seen type of thing. But yeah, I think this is their last go around.
Yeah, I think this season's going to be interesting to watch for sure.
Right.
So wrapping up the division, we have the Jets.
You did this on purpose.
I did do it on purpose. I did. I'm not going to lie.
Yep.
No, but I'm not going to be a homer, right? I'm not going to sit here and say they're the best team in the league. They're going to be amazing. I'm not about that. I will be the first to say that I think that they are a work in progress, specifically on offense. Mm-hmm. I will even go as far as to say it wouldn't surprise me if they start out 1-3 or 2-2. You think about their first 4 games, right? They have Buffalo. Mm-hmm. They're at the Cowboys. They're home to New England. And then they have the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. And then it even goes further than that. They have the Broncos and the Eagles. So, like, that's one thing that the whole AFC East and the NFC East, I guess, actually has going against them is they're playing each other.
Right.
And both divisions are pretty good.
Yeah.
And so it's a brutal schedule for the Jets, for everybody in both of these divisions. The AFC East has the NFC East and the AFC West. So you got the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos. So it's a brutal schedule. Mm-hmm. I do think they're going to figure it out. I think that they're going to end up being a playoff team. They're going to be good. What I'm most excited for with this team is their defense. I think that they're going to be phenomenal. I really do. DJ Reed, their starting corner, said today that he thinks they have a chance to be historic, was what he said. And then he compared themselves to the 85 Bears. That's pretty high praise.
Let's just slow it down.
Now, again, that's a player in the locker room who could be just trying to hype his boys up. I don't know. But I think that last year they jumped on the map, their defense, right? They came out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And this is year 2, trying to figure it all out. They have all the pieces together. They re-signed Quinn Williams, huge extension. Mm-hmm. He's a force. You know, they've showed multiple times on Hard Knocks just how dominant he is. Also, I love him. He's like the best personality on the team.
And he's respected there, too.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's awesome. He's funny.
Yep.
Christy loves him, my wife, you know, because I showed her the clip when he was a rookie of him sneezing, and he said, "Bless you," and then thanked himself. He sneezed. He said, "Bless you. Thank you." And then he just kept on with his interview like nothing. It was hilarious. But Christy loves him because of that. Uh-huh. But I think their defense is going to be phenomenal. And so that's what I'm most excited for. I think the combination of Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson has a chance to be just downright special. I think Garrett Wilson is going to fly on the map even more than he did last year, winning Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah.
I think that he's going to have an amazing year.
Oh yeah.
And again, do I think they're going to be a 14-win team? No, I do not.
Right.
I think they're going to be a 10 to 12 win team who have a wild card spot, and we'll see what happens after that. So I'm not a homer. I'm not going to sit here and say they're the best team in the world,
right?
Because I just don't think that's true. I think they're going to be good. They're going to be way better than they've been for a very long time, and I'm excited about that.
Right, you've always been cautiously optimistic about.
I'm a Jet fan, dude.
Yeah, because you expect the worst and you hope for the best type of thing.
Correct.
So I appreciate the honesty and the transparency on that. So way to go, not being a homer.
Appreciate it.
I like it.
Jets.
Go Jets. But yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. That defense will be elite. There's no. I just don't have any questions about that defense. Really, that jump off the page. It's just going to be their offensive line specifically.
Yeah.
That I'm going to have some issues with. I think Dwayne Brown's turning 38.
The dude is so old.
Yeah, he's 38.
Yeah, he's their starting left tackle.
Yep, and he's coming off like a rotator cuff surgery, so that's going to be. I think PFF had him rated as one of the worst left tackles last year too.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on. And then Becton on the other side.
Yeah, he got the nod. He went from left tackle to right tackle.
Yep.
He dropped 50 pounds.
Yep, that's right.
He's looked pretty impressive. They are going to get the one thing I'll say. I do agree that their line is the biggest question mark.
Mm-hmm.
They lost Elijah Vera Tucker, who can play any position on that line. I think the only position he hasn't played in his first 2 years is center.
Mm-hmm.
The second-year guy, lost him for the season in Week 5 last year against the Broncos. They lost Vera Tucker and Breece Hall in the same game. So they didn't have him all last year, basically. Mm-hmm. He is going to make an impact. Right. He already was becoming one of the most prominent linemen in the AFC, especially on the team. So I think they're going to be amazing? No. But I think they're going to be better than last year. And at the end of the day, it's Aaron Rodgers. And I think that he's going to get the ball out quick.
Yeah, he'll know who to rely on and who not to rely on, and how much time he has. He's that type of celebrate quarterback, and what even helps even further is the familiarity he has with his receivers already. That they brought in Cobb and Alan Lazard.
Yep.
So Garrett Wilson is just icing on the cake, in my opinion, on that wide receiver front. So I mean, in terms of talent around him, outside the wide receiver, you got Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall. So that's lightning and thunder type of combo there. So I like that running back situation there. And then they got Tyler Conklin there at tight end. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with Conklin's game too much.
He's more of a pass catcher. They also have CJ Uzomah, who they got from the Bengals 2 years ago.
Yep.
Conklin played a much more prominent role last year than Uzomah did.
Okay.
He was more of the guy catching the touchdowns. Uzomah was more of a blocker and more of a leadership type role.
Mm-hmm.
But Conklin, I think, because Aaron Rodgers has always been one to like his tight ends.
Yeah.
And so I think Conklin could have a sneaky good year.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, he doesn't have to. I mean, he's got, with that wide receiving core, he doesn't have to show out.
Correct.
So as long as he's like a red zone target type of thing, he's doing his job.
Correct.
So offensively, it's just about can those tackles hold up and can they stay healthy, because Becton hasn't played a full game since 2020, I believe. And then Dwayne Brown, obviously 38 and coming off that surgery. Well, you got questions at least to see about the durability. So, but that's outside of that, they have a very good chance of being of even winning that division in general. But I still think the Bills will give it that last hoorah.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, that was fun. That wraps up our divisional breakdown. So we're going to do our picks one last time. Again, we're writing them all down. We're not changing them.
Nope.
We're going to go back and see which one of us was smart, which one of us was not so smart. This week, I'll say we are much more on the same page, I think, for the most part.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the NFC East. I'll knock out my teams real quick. I have Philly winning it. I have the Giants in second.
Okay.
I have the Cowboys in third, and then obviously the Commanders in fourth.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I got Philly winning as well. Commanders in fourth. I just flip-flopped Dallas and okay.
So you have Dallas in second.
Yep, Dallas in second. Okay. Giants and it can go either way. I don't mind being wrong on that one. It's just going to be an issue of did the Giants do enough to leapfrog Dallas when they were treading water at 12 wins. So, yeah, I'm okay with those picks.
Okay. In the AFC, I really struggle with this because, like I said, I do think the Bills are going to take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I thought about it, like, what does that look like to me? Does that look like the Dolphins or the Jets winning the division? And to me, the answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the Bills winning the division. I have the Jets in second. I have the Dolphins in third, and then I have the Pats in the basement.
Yep, same exact
same.
Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Pats.
All right.
So it's kind of like the same issue I had when the AFC North back when I picked the Browns to win that division because I was like debating with the Bengals and Ravens, but I was going a little off topic, but just to go into my mind a little bit. But I was like I can't see either of them beating the other.
Yeah.
So. But like I love what the Browns were doing, or at least attempting to do. So that's why I leapfrogged them over that. So it's just similar issues mentally on that one.
Okay, so much easier this week, much more.
Oh,
on the
absolutely.
Same page.
Yep.
All right, so now we're going to kind of do some bonus picks. We're going to go 1 through 7 in each conference. So who we think's going to win? Obviously the AFC and the NFC, and then we'll pick our wild card teams, and then we'll make a Super Bowl pick as well. So. I will let you go first with your AFC rankings.
Okay, so number 1 seed, I got the Chiefs. Until someone dethrones them, I'm not
correct.
I'm not going anywhere
Agreed.
with the Chiefs there. Second seed, I got the Jaguars going number 2. I in that division, I think they just have an easier schedule than anybody else. But and third, the Bills. I think they'll win that division.
Okay.
There. Fourth, Browns.
Okay.
And then from there, I got the Bengals. They'll be neck and neck with the Browns.
Okay.
The Jets. And then the Chargers.
Yeah.
Okay. Set up a rematch from last year's Chargers and Jacksonville game.
Oh, I like that.
Yep.
I like that a lot.
Yep.
Brandon Staley. What are you going to do, bud?
That's right.
All right. So in the AFC, I also have the Chiefs, the number 1 seed with that first round bye. I have the Ravens as the 2 seed.
Okay.
The Bills as the 3 seed. The Jags, the 4th and final division winner. And then my first 2 wild cards are the same as you. I have the Bengals and the Jets. But then I have a third team coming out of the AFC East. I have the Dolphins, that last wild card spot.
Dolphins sneaking in.
Dolphins sneaking in. I think they're going to be good. I really, really, really struggled with the AFC. Because think about teams that I left out, right? The Chargers, the Broncos, the Steelers I talked about. I thought they could make the playoffs as well. So there's just so much talent. In the AFC.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with them. Yep.
All right, NFC. Who you got?
So I got the Eagles as the number 1 seed. I'm playing it safe. I think, even though they have a hard schedule, I think they just have the talent to overwhelm that. Okay. And then 2, don't call me a homer, but I got the Saints. I think their schedule is way too easy.
I don't think that's crazy.
Okay.
I really don't.
Yeah, I just think their schedule is just way too easy.
Yeah.
And then 3rd, I got the Seahawks. They were my division winners there in the West. 4th, I got the Lions going there. 5th, I got the 49ers as the top overall wild card seed.
I forgot that you picked the Seahawks. I forgot that you did that. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. And then I got 6 at Dallas, and then 7 the Giants.
Okay, so you have 3 out of the NFC East.
Yep. I think their Giants obviously improved. Dallas treaded water, and I think they're all just talented.
Okay.
I don't see any other team overwhelming the Giants or Dallas for those last 2 wild card spots.
Okay. So I have the 49ers as the 1 seed, the Eagles as the 2 seed, Saints as the 3 seed, and then the Vikings, the last division winner, as the 4 seed. My first wild card spot in the 5 is going to be the Seahawks. And then I have the Giants, and then I have the Lions rounding out. So I have actually Dallas not making the playoffs this year, which I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm high on the Lions, and I'm just not as high on.
Right, it's just about loving a team and not loving another team.
Correct.
Yeah.
So those are our rankings. So we're going to do a Super Bowl pick. So who'd you pick to make it, and then who did you pick to win? Your face, I can't not wait for this, just based off your face.
I had such a hard time deciding.
So did I. I really did.
Here's
what, and it's what I told you before the show. Like, I want to not be boring,
right?
And pick Chiefs Niners, because that's just an easy pick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to be credible,
right?
You don't want to be stupid and say Browns Lions like you want to say. So, anyways,
that's my fantasy Super Bowl. I would watch that 10 times over.
Yep,
that'd be so much fun. But I played it safe with the Eagles going back there. I think they have the most complete roster there coming out of the NFC, and then I think the Bills will come out of that AFC. I think this is where they're going to exercise their demons there, and they're going to come out from the AFC. And then I got the Bills winning it.
Do you?
Yep.
Right. You're just saying Bills, that to the guys at work.
Guys at work. Nate, Steve, everybody else, you guys owe me one. Right. But they have the talent. It's just about putting it together, and hopefully Stephon Diggs becomes a believer as the season goes on.
Yep. All right. I have the Niners coming out of the NFC. I think they were one game away last year. They had an injury. I think they're going to do it this year. I think they're still going to be very, very, very good. Mm-hmm. And then I have the Ravens. And I have actually the Ravens winning it. I told you I was super high on the Ravens this year, and I'm sticking with it. I think that they have a chance to be very, very good. Mm-hmm. So Ravens over the Niners in the Super Bowl is my pick. So
it's funny because I already have the Ravens by playoff.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just skip over that real quick. All right. So those are our picks. Every division, every wild card spot, every Super Bowl pick.
Right.
We'll periodically look over these as the season goes on.
Right.
So real quick, we will do our fantasy aspect of the show. So again, for each division of the AFC East and the NFC East, we pick a player that we must have on our teams, a player to stay away from, mm-hmm. and a sleeper pick.
Right.
I will let you go first.
Yeah. So for the NFC East, I got AJ Brown as my must-have.
Okay.
He's going to be that number one weapon there, regardless of what happens there in Philadelphia. Stay away. I got Brandon Cooks. I just don't know how effective he's going to be in that system, especially with his age.
Okay.
And then sleeper, I got Darren Waller. I'm not sure if he's much of a sleeper, but he's going to be. He should be a top 3 tight end being taken. To be honest with you.
So Darren Waller is my must-have.
Oh,
he's my must-have. Yep. He's the guy that above all else, you have to get him.
Yep.
I think that he is going to be just dominant.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he's my must-have in the NFC. my stay away. I just wrote the Commanders.
The Commanders.
So I'm not buying anybody on that team. Again, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to bash on the Commanders. I just, from a fantasy aspect, maybe Terry McLaurin, but like. That's a stretch. Like I'm just staying away from Washington altogether.
Just like my Cardinals pick with Marquise Brown.
Correct.
You got to pick somebody.
Yeah, and then my sleeper is Daniel Jones.
Okay.
I think that he is going to put up really, really good numbers. People forget that he's got some speed. He runs the ball a little bit, and I think his passing numbers are going to be through the roof this year again with Darren Waller.
Right.
So he's my sleeper in the NFC.
Okay.
Who do you have in the AFC East?
AFC, let's see here. I got must-have. I got Stephon Diggs as the must-have.
Okay.
That's it's just trying to make me feel better from the auto draft I had a couple yesterday. But I think he'll
Jeff decided to go to Walmart during our fantasy draft yesterday, guys.
I lost track of time.
And he was auto drafting for the first probably 3 or 4 rounds, which
for those of you
for 5 rounds. For those of you that know Jeff, like that just we don't auto draft.
It's a sin.
We don't do that.
Yep.
We like, for example, I was putting my daughter to bed last night and drafting at the same time. Like you just don't miss a fantasy draft. So when I thought something happened to him. Like I texted him, it's like auto draft,
right.
And so he was blessed or cursed with maybe some people that he wouldn't have drafted.
I was cursed,
including Stephon Diggs. So
yeah,
anyways, proceed.
Yeah, must have Diggs. Stay away. I got Mostert, even though he's the number 1 running back there, and Jeff Wilson Jr. isn't back until like week 5. I still stay away from that. Running back committee at all costs there in Miami.
Yep.
And sleeper, I got Lazard there for the Jets.
I like that.
So I think he's going to be that number 2 behind Wilson.
He should be.
Yeah. So I have high hopes for Lazard because Cobb is up there in age, and like Conklin, like you were saying, he's a pass catcher, but at the same time, as long as he's like a red zone threat type of thing. But Al Lazard will spread the field for you.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yep.
All right. So my must-have is Garrett Wilson. And I don't even really think that's me being a homer. I think that's just...
No, I was going to say the same thing.
I think that, again, we talked about it. I think he's going to blow up this year.
So absolutely.
He's my must-have. I already talked about it. I'm staying away from all New England running backs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not drafting anybody, not picking them up, nothing. Couldn't pay me. And my sleeper, I actually wrote James Cook because in his time last year, he had a few carries, not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He showed that he could be electric. And I mean, obviously, he's Dalvin Cook's brother. So, I mean, he's no slouch.
Right.
And I know they're both insanely geared up for week 1. So I think that he, again, it's all about how Buffalo decides to use him.
Mm-hmm.
If they devote, plays to running the ball, I think that James Cook could really have an impact on that team. So he's my sleeper in the AFC East.
Right. Yeah. Good sleeper.
All right. So hopefully, I know it's funny. We were talking about it during the weekend. We had 3 drafts. We had one Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yep.
And we're texting each other, man, we definitely listened to each other because I took the Saints defense in 2 out of the 3 leagues.
As I was going to take him too. Yeah, I'll admit that
on purpose.
Yep, I knew
you took Greg Dulcich, which was one of my sleepers.
Yeah,
so if none of you guys are listening to us, we're listening to us.
Yep.
So that's all that matters. So hopefully you guys got some takeaways from the fantasy football perspective. Obviously, most of you have probably already drafted by now, but hopefully we were able to help out a little.
Any last minute drafts?
Hopefully we were able to help out a little bit.
Right.
So that completes the fantasy part of this. Last thing for this episode, I know we're cramming a lot in here. We're going to do this every week. We're going to pick basically 2 games for the following week. One is our lock, our guaranteed win, and then the other one is like an upset special.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you go first with both of yours.
Okay, so my upset was the Lions over the Chiefs. So opening game. I think the Chiefs.
I think that could very easily happen.
I think the Lions should be amped up for that game.
Yep.
They can that new culture. This is what you've been trying to rebuild towards, type of thing. And I think the Chiefs. I think they're notorious for starting slow on occasion. They get a loss here and there.
Yep.
To open the season. So I think this could be one of the ones that were the Lions surprise people. And then as my lock, I got the Jags over the Colts. As we were talking about back in the episode with the AFC South. It's the Jags division to lose, and I just think the Colts, it's going to take a while for them to rebuild and put a competitive team back out there.
Yep, agreed.
So,
so my lock is the Seahawks over the Rams.
Okay.
I think the Seahawks are going to start out the year in a positive way. And my upset is, and this is only a slight upset, they were a 1-point underdog, was the Packers over the Bears. I think that Jordan Love is going to come out and have a pretty stellar debut. So that's my upset special. We'll track these each week. So basically what our episodes are going to look like from now on, obviously we don't have breakdowns to do every week.
Right.
So we'll sit here. We're going to record Sunday night after the 4:00 games have finished. And we'll just recap some things that caught our eye. We might not go through every single game, but we'll recap our picks. We'll keep track of what our records are with these picks each week and kind of, compete against each other.
Right.
We will talk about fantasy standouts, what quarterback blew up, what quarterback screwed us in our league, how our teams fared each week.
Right.
And just talk about things that caught our eye from the Sunday slate of games. So, again, the NFL is here. I'm pumped. This is the most excited I've been for football season in a really long time, obviously, with the Jets being competitive. So I cannot wait. And hopefully you guys stick around with us during the season because it's about to get fun.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So this is when the season starts. And this is
or sad if our team's.
Yeah, or sad. Or sad. Here's how you guys will know. If you're going to watch on YouTube and I'm not wearing Jets gear, they lost. Okay,
it's gonna be me talking. Basically,
I refuse to continue to wear my gear if they lost that day. I'm not going to the store wearing my Jets jersey if they just lost. I'm not doing it, and I'm dang sure not recording an episode if they just lost. So that's a good way to know how I'm feeling. If I'm recording and I'm in my Jets gear, then it was a pretty good day.
Yeah, whenever I go out, I always question: should I wear my Saints gear if they lost?
I'm like, I hate it.
Yep.
If I have to go out in public after they just lost, I feel like such a fool wearing my Jets gear.
Such a fool.
Like, because I walk around, I see other guys like if their team lost, in my head, I'm like, do they know that they lost? Like, what are they doing?
And this isn't just for game day. I do this for like the whole week.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I will wait until probably Thursday, Friday. Monday through Wednesday is an absolute no. If they lost, I'm not wearing any Jets gear. I'm not even wearing a hat. But I will get over it by like Thursday, Friday, and the hoodies will come out and the jerseys and the hats and everything will be okay. And we'll have the weekend and then we'll start all over again. So, again, I cannot wait. I think this is going to be a really fun year and we hope you guys stick around with us throughout the whole season. So thanks for tuning in. Sorry this episode is airing a day late. We had some stuff happen over the holiday weekend that kind of delayed us a little bit, but we appreciate you guys sticking with us, and we'll see you next week for week 1.
Week 1.
Peace.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to What Did They Know podcast. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media outlets to see future episode details, and don't forget to send in any questions or topics that you want to see the guys discuss in their weekly episodes to come.